I tweeted this out earlier. I read every mock draft. If I see one in my X timeline, Twitter timeline, boom, clicking. I don't care who it's from. I read scouting reports. I listen to podcasts about draft prospects, Sean. I love all of it, even though, again, like I've watched these guys, you've watched these guys. I love hearing different opinions about players that are not the same as mine. Me and you can watch the same film and have a different opinion. Now, there's people out there that are just purposely trying to get engagement, and those people will ignore those people, right? Like, it's okay to have a different opinion on a player, but to have something that's so vastly different than everyone else just to get engagement, that you're not smarter than everyone else, right? Like, you can say, and look, there are plenty of people that are like Caleb Williams. We saw Merrill Hodge, who's been right about a lot of quarterbacks, say like, you know what? I don't think he's special. Now, special to Merrill Hodge is different than special for me and you. And we'll get into Caleb Williams in a second, but that's, to me, the fun part about this process. And with the combine coming up, we're going to see athletic testing numbers, and we're going to accelerate that hype for certain players and down for other players. But the combine's purpose is not the athletic testing. Every player wears a GPS unit now when they work out in college football and in the NFL, by the way. They're in the pads as they play, Sean. All the teams know the speeds of the players. They know how fast these guys are already moving. The combine, for the physical athletic part of it, is do they pass the eye test, right? So, for example, Jeff Schwartz, I was slow. Now, when I played, we didn't have GPS units. Just had to watch the film, right, and watch binoculars on me. Jeff Schwartz is slow. Guess what? I ran a slow 40 time at the combine. I didn't jump. I know, right? Shocking. I didn't jump very high. Okay, well, check the box. Jeff Schwartz, not very athletic. They knew that already, right? So if I came out and ran a 5 flat 40, they'd have to go like, holy heck, why does Jeff Schwartz not play that fast on the field?
Yeah.
That's what it's about, cross-checking what you see on film. There are going to be guys that run faster than you think and guys that run slower than you think. And you have to figure out as a scout why that is. Puka Nacua is a great example of part of the scouting kind of process, right? He was drafted, I think, the 5th round, right, by the Rams last year, had an incredible season. There's a fun clip of Sean McVay and Les Snead, the general manager for the Rams and head coach McVay, talking about drafting Puka Nacua. And they said, you know, he didn't test very well, but he catches every pass and he runs away from defenders. So in the end, you have to weigh, right, like the testing results to the film. So the physical part of this that's the purpose for it. So when you're watching that, think about that, right? Like, even if you're just a casual fan, like, okay, that guy runs fast, but does he play that fast? That guy runs slow, does he play that slow? That's what the athletic part of the combine's about.
And of course, there's the medical testing where you'll see guys who've had incredible college careers, maybe even guys who run and jump and lift well, but there's something when they do the medical testing that makes teams balk a little bit, or that people get a little bit scared of. And then the interviews, I was listening to Daniel Jeremiah today. I'm a big fan of DJ and how he evaluates about how, you know, like the interview process, even that is a little bit misunderstood, where you're not really convincing teams. You're not really talking people in to drafting you in most cases. It's confirming biases or exposing red flags within yourself, right? I mean, that's what teams are trying to do with some of those questions. And even though some of those questions have been filtered out, something like the shocking, let's put this guy on the spot and say something bad about his mom, like that's been filtered out. It's been filtered out of the process. But still, you know, you sit down. It's a risky endeavor in a lot of ways for like non-sure thing players to engage in the scouting combine, but nonetheless, one of the most fascinating things we have in sports. And by the way, something that we don't embrace the NBA scouting combine the same way, even though they do very similar things. Major League Baseball scouting is not publicized and packaged in the same way. My PFL, the company I work for in the fight world, we were brainstorming, Jeff, and we put these ideas together. We packaged this thing, wanted to do an MMA scouting combine.
That'd be fun.
And you know, they asked me, I consulted on like, what would you do? What's a good thing to test? And it never came to fruition. Maybe someday it will, but it hasn't come to fruition at this point, because like, how do you test certain things? Obviously you can line up the accelerometers. You can have guys punch a bag and see how hard they punch. You can see how many like punches they can throw in a 30-second span. But the same way that these things don't translate directly to how good are you at football. It's like that in every sport. And it's just fascinating that the NFL seems to have really, like, they've been most successful in making it feel for fans like I see what Jeff Schwartz's 10-yard split is. I see what his 40 is. I see what his broad jump is. I see how many times he benches 225. And I, the fan, now feel like I can glean some information and project how he's going to be. And I think that's why it's such a successful thing.
But I also think they're easy workouts to consume as a viewer. A 40 time, you run a straight line, right? A bench press, not everyone lifts, but enough people work out. They know what 225 can feel like. And so I think it's easy to adjust. Plus, again, you get to watch these guys run the 40 time when they're actually on the field. So I think in people's minds, when you said PFL, I pictured Rocky IV. Just like Drago, like just continually punching something, running in, like getting measured. Now Rocky obviously wasn't doing any of that. It was an old school.
He was in that
workout.
barn in Siberia.
Yeah. Look, the medical part of this is interesting too, Sean. So what happens for the medical part is there's 6 different rooms, let's say, and players go into every room, and in each room there's 5 doctors from each team or 6 doctors from each team. And they go up and down your body. They feel every part of your body. I remember I had in one room, a doctor sort of moved my knee and was like, "Did you hurt your MCL?" It was 4 years. Freshman season, MCL, missed 1 game, came back. They can sort of feel everything, right? And then send you for MRIs and other testing. And that's why the combine started. It was a place to get medical testing done where everyone's there, right? Because of course, if you're going to invest $1 million into a player, you want to know whether or not they're healthy. Even guys, and we'll talk about Penix in a second, guys that have been hurt and then play healthy for a couple of years, there's still concerns about injuries because injuries, and look, I was a guy who was injured all the time, Sean. It sucks being tagged as injury prone because a lot of times that's not your fault, right? But there's some truth to that. And this is where you can pair up sometimes the physical testing to the medicals. There are numbers like the short shuttle, right? So you're in the middle, you're at the 5, you run to the 10, you run back to the goal line, run to the 5, the 20-yard shuttle, okay, 5, 10, 5. But, Sean, a lot of times for offensive linemen, for example, if you're under a certain number, your career length is super long because it translates to basically, can you move? Are you flexible? Do you have flexible tendons? Because the way the drill is run, those guys stay healthier. My shuttle time, believe it or not, was very slow. Shocking, right? And I was hurt all the time. Like, it's just, so there are some things that go from the physical to the medical that I think teams take away from the combine.
But you did, I consider a short NFL career to be like 3 years.
I played 8 years, yeah.
You had 8 years, right? So it's like
I had 6 surgeries, but yeah, it was.
there's some guys who play 15 and they're the incredible outliers. Yeah. But in any case, yeah, like the whole process is fascinating. Can we start getting into the players? All right, I want to. Is there any?
Well, the one last thing that I think is the oddest part of the combine, especially now in 2024 with our sort of climate, is the weigh-in process. Because you are in your tights, you walk in front of 100 scouts sitting in stands. They have a notebook out, and they're like, "All right, Jeff Schwartz, 6'6", 331. His hands are 10 inches. His arms are 34. Oh, and then you squat while you're in your tights to see kind of hip, ankle mobility.
Decent bulge. All right, we're good.
And so that is the only thing you do not measure of your entire body, that part. Everything else is measured. You do a Cybex test, so you test your leg strength early on, and it's just awkward. I'm just kind of surprised they still do that